All right, we're live. Welcome to another Dynasty Pros Devy show. I'm Andy. I'm joined by Tommy and SC. We have a jam-packed episode today. We're going to talk about updated portal players, and we take a look at our 2024 NFL Rookie Mock 1.0. All this and more after the intro. What's going on, guys? How you guys doing?
Oh man, doing all right.
Trying to stay
All
up to
right.
date with the transfer, man. Everyone's going in the transfer portal, it
I
seems.
know, I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
All the activity over the last couple of days with these guys trying to get in before signing day tomorrow.
Hmm.
Yeah, and big news broke before the show started today. Evan Stewart enters the portal. Tommy, where do you want to see him end up?
I would actually love to see him go to Oregon. I think that'd be the perfect spot for him to go there and team up with Dylan Gabriel. Um, I, especially with Troy Franklin leaving, they could really use that wide receiver one, and he profiles as that. Especially in that type of offense where they can just get him the ball, let him go.
SC.
Yeah, no, I mean, you took Oregon out my mouth, so I'll go ahead and I'll pivot to, let's just say maybe Texas. I mean, stay local, stay within the state. You have Quinn Ewers possibly coming back. They're losing Worthy, they're losing Sanders, so even AD Mitchell, they need someone else to come in. They're gonna have Jonte Cook, and I think that could just be a very explosive offense. Even with the running back game, that'll be somewhere where he's not moving too far away from where he's at now. And it just seems like a good fit now that they're going to the SEC. He's still going to get that big stage that he wants to be on.
Yeah, I
Deadbolt,
think those.
Deadbolt's advocate here going against Texas is Matthew Golden is there now too. So, um, they're bringing Golden into be that wide receiver one. I don't know if Evan Stewart really matches up with what they want there.
Yeah, I think those are two good landing spots. A place that I kind of want to see him at is Alabama. Isaiah Bond kind of stepped up, but he's not really that wide receiver one. So I think with all the hype that Jalen Milroe is getting about possibly Heisman next year, he'll stay in the SEC, goes to a high profile school with possible Heisman candidate. So that might be something fun. But the news broke, believe it was last night. Malachi Nelson for USC decides to opt out of his, NIL deal with USC and enters the portal. Now, it broke earlier today that he's been contacted or talked to TCU, Tulane, Cal, and other lower tier schools. Do any of those programs jump out to you? And if not, what dark horse Power Five or Power Four school would you want to see him end up? SC.
I mean, out of those schools, man, Houston, born and raised, in Houston, that'll be awesome to see that there. But with the caliber that he was from it, I don't want to see him go down, hurt him just all over the way. So the question comes to me is, does he want to sit? We're seeing what Dante Moore is doing and going to Oregon and sitting behind Dylan Gabriel, right? Does Malachi Nelson want to do this? I think he could elevate Houston and go and do great things there, but I don't know if that's the best fit for him as far as what he can do to improve his draft stock. Prior to this whole situation, even leading up to before it was, he was arguably QB1 of the 26 class with a bunch of uncertainties going in. Now, I don't even know if he's in the top five if these are the schools that are looking at him. It says, what are these older coaches thinking about him? What did the Lincoln Riley tell him? Or what words are coming about his practice skills? What's he's doing behind the scenes when he's not on tape, right? So there's a lot of worrying there. I think for him. There's a lot of murky water on where I want to see him right now. Houston would be great, but I don't think that's the best fit for him personally.
Tommy.
Yeah, of those schools, the only one that really makes any sense is TCU. Tulane's not a Power Five. That doesn't make any sense, especially if he's supposed to be this big time elite quarterback, which we all believe he is. So so Tulane doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Cal doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me either because Chandler Rogers just transferred there too. So I mean, him going in and competing with an already established quarterback, transferring it from North Texas. Cal doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. That just seems like a really big downgrade. Houston doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either, just because Donovan Smith is still there. So again, he's going there to sit for another year. Whereas TCU, Chandler Morris just hit the portal. I think TCU has plenty of opportunity for him to go to start day one.
Talk about Malachi Nelson here. Where
Yeah, I'm really shocked. I know you guys just kind of hitting on it, but seeing him that all of a sudden he is trying to leave USC and the guys where he's trying to go is just shocking to me. I mean, I thought this was going to be a guy with like super high Devy value, going into next season with a chance to be USC's new quarterback after Caleb Williams is gone. And now you're like, man, where does this leave his Devy stock? He's not the only one, but I'm surprised by some of the moves these guys are making. I can understand a guy going, "Hey, coach left. I need a new program. Hey, I was stuck behind a guy. I want to get a chance to start." And it's surprising how many of these guys are going to schools that other guys are going to too. So it seems like they're going into situations that are similar to the situations they were already in, where they were like, "Hey, guys, I'm going to have to fight it out for a spot. I'm not guaranteed a starting role." And these guys are leaving the program to go to somewhere else, basically be in a similar situation to what they were in. Very, very strange to me, just kind of how the early part of this portal's worked. And we'll end up seeing, where some of these guys end up eventually, as opposed to where they're saying they're going to go. But it's been a really weird portal for me so far, just especially quarterbacks, because some of these decisions just aren't making much sense to me.
Well, also, you have to think also that Malachi Nelson is going to be looking to see where guys like Cam Ward go to, DJ Uiagalelei, because those are the guys who are more in demand right now, just because those national title contenders are wanting established quarterbacks already. So, and Malachi Nelson's not that yet. So, he's gonna kind of have to take a back seat and wait for those dominoes to fall first before he can make his decision.
Yeah, it seems like Cam Ward is going to possibly decide between Florida State and Miami, and DJU, possibly the same. So we have those two guys looking at those schools, and then, Will Howard potentially at USC. The only team that, hasn't have a big name quarterback at a big program is Ohio State. He's someone that I think would fit well there. I mean, yeah, he has to compete with Devin Brown. It's more, does Malachi want to compete, or does he want just to get the job? Like that's what is I'm thinking is he just wants to be named the starter.
Another solid spot for him would be LSU. I know you're big on Nussmeier. I don't know how big the coaching staff is on Nussmeier though. So if they were to bring in Malachi Nelson, that could spell the end for Nussmeier there.
If Ohio State were to bring him in, I mean, are they willing to possibly lose Aaron Nolan if he, goes there? And then it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to leave somewhere, because I think that's a good prospect that, we'll dive into future shows. But we saw what Oregon did when Bo Nix came back, right? Dante Moore left, he ended up coming back, but I think that's a similar situation where that's why I think he could beat Donovan Smith out at Houston. I think he has the talent there to be able to do it, and that's a good opportunity to not have as tough of a schedule as TCU may have, but still do some solid things in the ropes.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then one final guy that hasn't chosen his school, but Trevor Etienne, from all indication, looks like he's going to be at Georgia. That Georgia backfield is getting more and more crowded by the week. Does this hurt or help Trevor Etienne's Devy value? Tommy?
I would say it hurts it. I mean, he's going from a place where he was where he was splitting carries to begin with Montreal Johnson. Now he's looking at going to a place where he's going to split carries with three other guys. I mean, it's a tough situation. I mean, obviously Georgia does a good job of developing running backs, but he's not going to get showcased at all.
I would say the opposite. I think it could help him because I don't. Yeah, Georgia cycles their running backs, but none of their running backs really stepped out greatly to me. Where ETN had some flashes of some greatness, so I think if he goes in there, it's because the coaches are saying we want you and we want to make sure you're one of our guys, right? I'm still a huge Branson Robinson believer. I think that guy's a beast, and if he's healthy, we're about to see some great things happen. Roger Robinson looked great, as well, but with what Georgia is and what they want to do, and Carson Beck even coming back, it's like, okay, we need a guy that's a solid veteran running back that has the experience that can get the explosiveness out that we need. That's something I felt that they were lacking this year in the running game.
All right, Justin, we have a help and a hurt. What do you think?
Yeah, so for me, I think this hurts him. Just again, like you guys said, it's just so many guys already in that backfield. There's so many guys that have been injured that a lot of us really like as far as Devy purposes. I'm not saying it can't help his development, because I think it could help his development being in a loaded backfield that way. Now, is it going to help his draft stock because he's going to get more carries? I don't see that. That's the issue for me there. Now, can he become a better running back being in that situation? Yes, but the playing time. This is another one where I look at some of these guys, and I understand transfer if you're not getting playing time, but some of these transfer moves to me, they just don't make a lot of sense. These guys are going into situations where they're fighting more guys than they were already where they were at. So that's the only thing. I mean, I like Etienne. I think he could be good on Georgia. So it's not that I don't think he could be good there. Man, that backfield is so loaded. I mean, you're as a Georgia coach, you got to be pumped. As a former running back coach, I'd be pumped to have all that talent in the room. But man, it's going to be some tough decision making time if those guys, if most of those guys end up being healthy. It's going to be a hard decision who to play in that backfield because man, they've got a ton of talent.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. If you have shares of Trevor Etienne, you're definitely a little bit worried. Let's move on to some quarterbacks who have new homes. The first one is Dante Moore with Oregon. SC, he originally committed to Oregon, and he finds his way back there. Do you think he's got a shot to beat out Dylan Gabriel?
No, I mean, I think he went there because he knew he had to take a back seat. But I think his time at UCLA, whether it be his chemistry with Chip Kelly or anything, he realized, all right, maybe I'm not ready. But going back to Oregon just shows that they're still committed to him. They're still saying, hey, you're one of our guys. We want you here. I do believe Van Buren decommitted as well. So he's going there now. Now it's just him and Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel played great this past season. It's someone that you can go there and build up and learn. The Oregon offense is explosive. And I think that's something that Dante Moore thought UCLA was going to be, but it was just some bad coaching. And it just kind of ruined that whole atmosphere for him. He was like, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't what they promised me. Oregon's still saying, look, man, we still have a lot of the guys here that are still going to go out there and feed you. You know, there's still going to be some wide receivers for you. Still have some running backs there. Our defense is on the up. We're going to the Big Ten now. He's going to a bigger stage in a sense, and I think he's okay with it, with being the back. It's going to be some good competition, but I also know he's the number two. It's not going to be, hey, you're our starter, pull you out. Hey, you're back in, pull you out again. You know, it's going to be, you're our number two. And if Dylan Gabriel does go down, it's all yours. But right now, we think he gives us the better shot. Of course, quarterback competition will lead in before the season begins. But right now, if I was going to play one of the two, I'd probably play Dylan Gabriel.
Tommy, before the season, you were pretty high on him. Does this change your position on him at all?
No. I mean, he went to Oregon because that's one of 4 or 5 places in the entire country that he knows he's going to get the type of exposure and the type of offense that he wants to run. You know, he could have gone to, you know, obviously Oregon, Washington, Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama. Any one of those would have welcomed him with open arms, I'm sure. And those are really the, you know, like I said, 4, 5, 6 programs around the country that are going to showcase what he's able to do as a quarterback. Michigan a little bit less because they don't really like to throw the ball around a whole lot, but just his mobility, he's able to make plays. And so Oregon really fits what he what he does. I mean, if you look at Bo Nix, if you look at Dylan Gabriel, and then Dante Moore, that's going 3 consecutive quarterbacks like that is it's pretty special.
Justin, if you don't have Dante Moore in a C2C league, are you trying to buy him now, or are you going to wait for a year, see what happens?
I'm actually wondering if now might actually be a decent buy time, in the fact that Gabriel is a guy that people are going to assume is going to get the starting job. Does that push more down a little bit now that maybe has a city year? Maybe it's better for him. So for me, on the Moore situation, I'm hoping it's a situation where Chip Kelly just wasn't the fit he thought it was going to be. And he realized, I probably should have stayed with Oregon. And he's more transferring Oregon going, hey, I think this program is the program for me, as opposed to I got to transfer here so I can start. So you're hoping that that's what the situation in his mind is, that he wants to get there and he's willing to compete with Gabriel. And if he ends up not winning the starting job, he's going to still learn and get better and then be ready to go that next year. So hopefully for me, if you got some people who are maybe a little down on him thinking that maybe he isn't going to start this year, I think now might be a decent buy window, just because things did not go great at UCLA. And you know how people get, they overreact. It was a true freshman. He didn't have a ton of help around him. That we saw that UCLA kind of was, things kind of fell off the rails at the end of the season there. So I don't think it was all Dante Moore by any means. But I feel like some of those people might have a bad taste in your mouth, and now might be a decent buy window, especially if you get into this summer and it looks like Gabriel will definitely be the guy. I think you could buy him a lot lower than you would have had to buy him for last year.
And Justin, let's talk some Syracuse football. Kyle McCord transfers out of Ohio State, is now at Syracuse. What are your thoughts on this landing spot for him?
As a Syracuse guy, I love the pickup of McCord. Now, if people were trashing McCord and they're like, hey, he's not an NFL guy, look at all the talent around him and what he did at Ohio State, I think he got a bad rap this year. Now, was he all world beater? No, but he was also the first year as a starter. I mean, sometimes guys don't, he led his team to 11-1. It's not like they were bad. I mean, people acted like he just was terrible for them. But look at their defensive stats. They were a really good defense. There was a ton of games where they did not ask him to put up a ton of yards. They weren't asking him to throw the ball over the field because they were winning and they were dominating. I love it for Syracuse. I think Syracuse has some underrated special guys, running backs, tight ends, wide receivers, some guys that aren't really nationally known. But, man, if you had a better quarterback, I like Garrett Schrader, but, man, he has not been great throwing the football the last 2 seasons. He has really, really struggled. And I think if you could put a Kyle McCord in there with another year experience, and, while Ohio State was not loving him, I think the fans in Syracuse are going to absolutely be stoked about having Kyle McCord on that team. I think it's a lateral move. I actually think it's a nice move for him to get out of the Big Ten. I know people want to be in the Big Ten, the SEC. I think it was a better move for him to kind of get away from that. I saw originally was looking at Nebraska, maybe a couple other schools in the Big Ten. I was like, man, I just don't like those fits for him at all. I like him getting out to the East Coast, back, he's from Philly area. So I just think, to me, I love the move. I think it's a really good move for him. I think he's going to have a shot to really prove himself at Syracuse this year.
Tommy, we saw him play all year at Ohio State. Do you think the pressure got to him and that's why he struggled, or he just, competition was just too tough for him?
Well, I mean, we have to look at it this way. He's not CJ Stroud. So if, whoever was expecting him to be CJ Stroud, that's where the pressure came from on him. I think, everybody saw how that offense operated last year, and they were expecting everything to be the same with basically the same weapons coming back. Another year of Marvin Harrison Jr., another year of Emeka Egbuka. Now, granted, Egbuka spent a lot of the time injured. And then a healthy Travion Henderson and Cade Stover and all these guys, but I just think he's a different type of quarterback than what CJ Stroud was. So I don't think he necessarily fit that offense. I think he's more of a game manager, not a pusher of the ball.
SC.
Yeah, I like this move more than I like Malachi Nelson's move. Because Nelson, we didn't see him, right? So it's like, what was wrong? What would happen that you're running, not running away, but that's the term I'm going to use, running away from USC, from one of the Power 5 schools, right? And Cobb McCord, I mean, we saw him at Ohio State. He had the receivers. It wasn't the fireworks we were wanting to see in Ohio State with the weapons they had, but he wasn't bad either. He wasn't a horrible quarterback. He still got them down the field. I think this is a better move for him because it's going to be an opportunity to showcase his talent, but not necessarily have to have that pressure of one of your top schools, right? You had to be a playoff school this year, right? If you're in Ohio State, now 12 teams. This year, Syracuse, hey, if you go out there and win and you become a playoff school, then it's like, okay, well, look, you just made Syracuse a playoff team, right? Where he doesn't have as much pressure. So I think it's going to be a little bit better for him. We're going to see a different element of him come out because he's going to understand the game and be able to slow it down a little bit more. It's not going to be kind of a go, go, go mentality with Ohio State where they have to win. Of course, Syracuse wants to win, but I think they have a little bit more leeway as far as expectations than your Ohio State's would. So I think mentally this is a better move for McCord.
The next player that I want to talk about is Matthew Golden. At the beginning of the season, he was a high-value Devy asset. A lot was expected. There were a lot of vacated targets. It appeared that his role changed this year, and in some games, Samuel Brown took over and outshined him. With his role changing for more of a short area passer, SC, I want to start with you. Is he more on the Barry and Brown spectrum where he is more of a returner and a gadgety, close area type player? Or is he more Xavier Worthy where he's a returner that is also a more complete receiver where he's also a field stretcher? What are your thoughts on Matthew Golden?
If we're looking at that spectrum, I'd say more of a Barry and Brown. I didn't see that explosion that I see when I see Wardy on the field. I see him someone that he can be that return guy, but I don't see him as an alpha wide receiver, so to say. And I think, if you're going to a place like Texas, then you have to worry about Jonte Cook. I think that's a real threat to see your targets. Even with Wardy, A.D. Mitchell, and Jatavian Sanders leaving, I think this is an opportunity for him to go out there and be that one. But I think the competition is a lot greater than what it would be at Houston this year. So I think this might hurt him. Sure, Texas is a bigger school, but I think the competition is going to be rough for him, and he's going to have a wake-up call to say, okay, these are the big dogs, and I don't know if this is naturally my fit to be that alpha wide receiver. Maybe I do need to be that gadget guy and take that role on to become a better fit all around for my team.
Tommy?
I think Matthew Golden is a very complete wide receiver. I don't think he's Xavier Worthy to where he's just going to explode down the field, but I also don't think he's Xavier Worthy to where he's going to shy away from contact. I think he's much more physical. I think he's stronger with his hands. I think he may even be a better route runner, honestly. Xavier Worthy to me is Jalen Hyatt, whereas Matthew Golden is more of a guy who can be a possession guy, but can also stretch a little bit too. He's going to go up and catch the 50-50 balls. Like I said, he's just much more physical. And I think that plays a lot better in the SEC than what it would have in the Big 12.
Yeah, as far as Golden's concerned, this whole past season a little worried me. I was a little more higher on him coming into the year than after what I saw this year. And I'm not like I said. I mean, I don't know. Going to Texas, a lot more other guys there. There is going to be some room to play. So if he can get in that lineup, you hope that elevates him and elevates his Devy stock, seeing as he went from Houston, Texas. But man, some of these guys get me a little worried sometimes, as we talked about it last year with some of these transfers. These guys moved in from smaller schools to bigger schools thinking, hey, I'm going to step right in. I'm going to help my NFL draft stock. And then the guys just got lost in the mix. And I'm really hoping that doesn't happen for Matthew Golden. If he can come out and compete, I think that helps him a ton, especially Devy-wise. But if he gets lost in the mix, man, he could end up getting buried as a Devy asset. That has me a little bit worried.
Well, and also we have to look at it. 2024 is extremely loaded with wide receivers, but so is 2025. I mean, you're looking at Luther Burden and Evan Stewart and Tet McMillan. I mean, those are probably your top three at the moment, right? I mean, then you start looking at somebody like a Matthew Golden.
Yeah, I agree.
Justin, this past season for Ole Miss, you were a big fan of Trey Harris. Him, transferring in. You liked what you saw. You think he improved his stock. With Juice Wells coming to Ole Miss, do you see him making that kind of impact, for the team and improving his draft stock after an injury season at South Carolina?
Yeah, if he can stay healthy, I really like this move for him. So, some people might say this is a little bit more of a lateral move from South Carolina to Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss has got more explosive offense. And there's going to be some spots, there's receptions to be had there in Ole Miss. They're a high up-tempo style. You're going to get another year of Jackson Dart. Hopefully, he just keeps taking steps. I actually really like this move for Juice Wells. If he can stay healthy, I think he could be very explosive. I actually think he could. I really liked what Trey Harris did coming over in the transfer. He was one of those guys I was like, man, I love his talent, but can he make that next step at an Ole Miss? I think Juice Wells is a guy that's already there as far as talent-wise. The question for him, is can he stay healthy? If he stays healthy, I think he could end up having a monster year at Ole Miss. And I would want to buy low on him right now. I definitely see if I could get some Juice Wells. Somebody's like, he's injured, he's transferring, I don't love him. If I could get somebody that's not in love with Juice Wells, I would take a chance on him because I think this could end up being a really, really good fit for him.
SC?
Yeah, no, I enjoy it too. I mean, I really like what I saw in Jackson Dart, and I think he's going to take that next step. He was someone that you should have been buying low on, or if you had Devy, he had really no value going into the season. It was kind of an uncertainty, like, is he worth anything or is he worth nothing? Like, so you had to hold him, right? And I think you are satisfied with what he did this season, and I think adding a wide receiver like Juice Wells to his arsenal of weapons could be there to just elevate them both a little bit more. Where South Carolina, you're losing Rattler, so he was kind of uncertain, and we saw progression with Jackson Dart. So he's like, I'm gonna go to a team that looks like the quarterback's on the rise, and I want to go out there and be his one, which I think is a very big possibility for him.
Tommy?
Well, point one here. Ole Miss has won the transfer portal, haven't they? I mean, just look at what they've added on defense. It's just sick. But they have the potential to have just a nasty, filthy wide receiver room. Trey Harris, Juice Wells, Aiden Williams, and then they also brought in Deion Smith. Remember him from LSU a couple years ago. He was a 4-star wide receiver coming out of high school. Didn't make the grades at LSU. Went JUCO for a year, and now he's transferring back into the SEC to Ole Miss. So that wide receiver core could be absolutely filthy.
I think as a team, Ole Miss, they should make the playoffs next year, and there's no excuse for Jackson Dart. I mean, they have all the weapons for him. Quinshawn for another year. It should be all systems go for them. Now, someone moving up from G5 to a Power 4 is Cullen Lacey. He was someone that South Alabama relied on. He is going to be playing in a slot position at Louisville for Jeff Brom's system, and that's where we want is that slot receiver. SC, what are your thoughts on him?
He's someone that I love his game. He's someone that you will see wants to get better. Each year he wants to improve, and he has done that. And now that he's going into that 5th year, it's like, okay, now I have an opportunity to transfer to a top school or a power school to say, this is who I am, and get on that national stage, right? Get some of that exposure that he deserves to raise his draft stock. I think this is a beautiful move because it's not somewhere that's gonna hurt him. Like, it's not going to an Alabama or anything like that and you flop and it's just like, okay, you're not that good. It's so they can actually utilize him. It's someone that he can go in there and build up on his opportunities and showcase even more than what he already has in his prior 4 years at Alabama, South Alabama there, that he can go in there and say, look, I do have that talent and I have the dedication to the game and the strengths you need in the wide receiver to excel at that next level.
Tommy?
Yeah, this is another team that's completely retooled their offense through the portal. Bringing in Tyler Show. They also brought in Donald Chaney, the running back from Miami. They already had Kevin Coleman. They went out and got Ja'Cory Brooks from Alabama, and also Colin Lacey. Lacey is probably the most valuable of them. He's going to play that Jamari Thrash role, obviously with Thrash moving on to the NFL. And he was uber productive in that Jeff Brom system. I think Lacey is probably a better receiver than what Jamari Thrash is. At least better skill set. He's more physical than what Jamari Thrash is. Thrash, obviously, kind of a smaller guy. He relies on his twitch and his burst to beat you, whereas Cullen Lacey can actually get physical with you and beat you off the line.
Justin, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so this one I'm going to go back and kind of talk about briefly. Go back to Ole Miss, Zachariah Franklin. This is a similar situation, but this to me feels different. Franklin, you were going there hoping he could make a name for himself from UTSA to Ole Miss. He only played in 3 games this year, was banged up all year, never really seemed like he was ever in the mix to get playing time at Ole Miss this year, and just really crushed any kind of draft stock he had. I mean, really did. Now, Lacey on the other side, see, I feel like this is a good situation because he's going to a team where he isn't in the mix with a million other wide receivers. I think he's a guy that they're counting on him coming in and playing. So I think Franklin was a guy you're like hoping and wishing that he was going to do that same thing that he did at UTSA at Ole Miss, and it didn't happen. And so that's the other side of the bag. Man, you have a really productive some of these smaller schools. You go up too big, and sometimes you get lost in the mix. I don't feel like this is that case with Lacey. I feel like this is a good spot. Louisville was a good call for him. He's going to get a lot of touches in a pretty productive offensive system. So to me, it was a smart move by him because he is going to get a chance, I think, to really show like, hey, I did this here at Louisiana Tech. We've seen guys do it there. Trey Harris did it there. He was really productive, moved up. Ole Miss, he was one of the guys that was huge and productive once he came over. So I think it's a good move for him. I like the hit there.
Did anybody else notice that Tanner Koziel transferred there too?
I didn't see that. No.
Tied in for Ball State.
I thought see that one.
Yeah, they both Ball State tight ends transferred out. Brady Hunt transferred to South Carolina and Koziel to Louisville.
Yeah, I think those are 2 good landing spots. I actually have both in a couple of C2Cs, so I'm glad they're not teammates anymore.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Tommy, one final guy that I want to talk about is Holden Stays. He showed out for Notre Dame this year, and now he's out at Tennessee. What does he bring to that program?
Blocking. He's going to play the Jacob Warren role. He's not going to run a whole lot of. He's going to run some routes, but he's not going to catch a whole lot of passes. When they're going to look to throw to the tight end, it's going to be more Ethan Davis. But Holden Stays is a very good blocker. He's going to be able to help in the run game tremendously. And Tennessee brings back their entire offensive line also, so that running game is going to continue to be nasty next year.
SC, with him being a potential blocker for Nico, what do you think this does for Nico's stock next year?
Oh, we'll help him out. I mean, I think this will just show that Holden Stays is more of a complete tight end, being that blocker, and with someone that's as agile as Nico and so tall and lengthy, you want to protect him on all costs. So having that tight end that can get out there or even run with Nico, honestly, because he does have some good speed to him, will just help out tremendously. As Tommy was saying, that running game is going to be something to watch, but it's also potentially to give Nico opportunity to scan the field and let the wide receivers get open. I feel a lot of times this year we saw Joe Milton make some great plays, but he was having to struggle trying to find certain wide receivers because they weren't having as much time to get open if they needed to. So now adding that extra blocker on the end there will just help him out, and it'll just be an all-around great fit. We're going to see that he's a complete tight end. He can run those routes. He can catch the ball, but yet he's going to be involved more in the blocking game. And for tight ends, that's really something you want. That's really something that can help raise his draft stock. And I really feel he wasn't utilized prior to. So this is something where he kind of gets a new mix, a new era of him, if you will. So this is a great opportunity for him.
Justin, final thoughts on Holden Stays?
I'll just say, I like the move for him. I know these two guys know a lot more about him going to Tennessee than me, but I think it's a good move. I think that offense is going to be improved next year. And he's a guy I think that could help them in the running passing game, just like both these guys said, as he is a solid blocker. He proved that last year. And I think it's a really good gift for Tennessee. I really think he's going to do well there.
All right. It's time to move on to our 1.0 rookie mock draft. Now, we did this, I want to say, middle to late October. So what you're about to see might be a little outdated, but that also shows the volatility of the Devy world. So this was the draft that we did. Let me go back to the first round here. And for those of you not watching, I'll give a quick recap, and then we'll run down each pick, and we'll talk about the guys that we took. At 101, this is a super flex tight end premium draft. At 101 was Caleb Williams. 102, Marvin Harrison, followed by Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Malik Neighbors, Brock Bowers, Keon Coleman, Emeka Egbuka. At 109, Braylon Allen, Troy Franklin, Shedeur Sanders, and at 112 was Xavier Worthy. Tommy, you let this off at 101 for the easy choice here at Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
what was your thought process on that?
Yeah, there wasn't much of a thought process there. It's the easy 1-1. It's kind of the easy way to go whenever you're doing a super flex. If it was just a standard, I would have gone with Marvin Harrison Jr. But because being a super flex, just kind of standard practice is you take the quarterback.
And then at 102, it was SC taking Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are your top two. If you have the 101 and you have a good amount of quarterbacks, maybe you have Burrow and Herbert or something, then the smart choice would be try to trade back, right? Try to get some more capital for that 101 instead of taking Marvin Harrison there in the super flex. But I think that could be argued for, hey, Marvin Harrison is that 101. As Tommy said, too, in non-superflex leagues, he definitely is. So I just think that's an easy choice. You get a solid wide receiver 1, and he's going to be on your team for 10 years or so. That's very nice for you.
And then, Justin, you took Drake May at 103.
Yeah, so if I'm superflex, I need quarterback. I'm going Drake May. Now, I will say I'm in a couple leagues where I am pretty good at QB, pretty good at running back, and real thin at wide receiver. So at this 102, 103, 104 spot, I am definitely having on my mind that if I have one of those teams that I'm definitely hurting at wide receiver, I am considering Malik Neighbors here at 103. I definitely am. So in this, no context of anything else that's going on with my team, I'm going to take the QB in a super flex league. But there is definitely some situations I could see myself jumping up, and I'm going Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors 101, 102, 103 for me in a few leagues where I need a stud, solid wideout that's going to be there for years. I could see myself skipping QB, especially landing spot. I could see myself skipping QB and going one of the wide receivers there.
At 104, I took JJ McCarthy. To my defense, at the time we did this, he was playing pretty well. But at the same time, I am a homer. I have his jersey back there somewhere. So that was at 104.
Sit on your wall.
Yeah. 105. Let's go to better picks here. 105 was Malik Neighbors. Tommy, what was your thought process at 105?
Yeah, this is a very wide receiver heavy draft, so I figured may as well go to the wide receiver, the wide receiver 2 here for my team 2 and take Malik Neighbors. There wasn't really a quarterback that jumped off the page here to me. Running back is kind of a situation right now. So I went with kind of the best available, and I thought that was Malik Neighbors.
And with it being a tight end premium league at 106, SC took Brock Bowers.
Yeah, and I think you just hit it right there with it being tight end premium. The next group of wide receivers, I think they're very close as far as how you'll rank them. So with me, it's like take that tight end 1, take that guy that's going to give you a little bit extra just based on his receptions that he'll get in a premium league. You can argue getting another quarterback, but I mean, Brock Bowers is in a tier of his own when it comes to tight ends of this class. So if you're getting him at 106, I think that's a steal for you.
And then at 107, Justin, you took Keon Coleman. Was that a tough decision for you with other receivers on the board and Braylon Allen still there?
Yeah, so Bowers was going to be my pick for sure. If he got to me, I was taking Bowers. So when he went, it was for me. I was really debating on wide receiver. Buka's been beat up. Coleman, for me, landing spot's going to be huge on how he's going to be used in the NFL because I think there's some really good spots for him that he could be really, really good. I also think there's some spots where he ends up they don't use him right and he could suffer. So I could see myself, depending on landing spot eventually, that's pick end up being Troy Franklin. I could see myself taking Troy Franklin over. I think Franklin's the better all around player right now. I just think Keon Coleman has a chance to be. I think he's got a huge upside if he gets on the right team and they use him right. But I also think he maybe has one of the bigger bust potentials of these guys. So for me, I went Coleman there. I was really high on him at that point. If I had to do it again, there's a chance I take Franklin instead.
And then at 108, I took Emeka Egbuka. I just feel like he's the best slot receiver of the draft. He's playing in the bowl game, so he might not even come out. You know, that might be a wasted pick, but that was my thought process on 108. I'm not doing too well on this. At 109, Tommy, you took Braylon Allen as your RB1.
Yeah, really the only running back, in my opinion, you're able to take here. And the fact that, I mean, obviously this is three separate teams that I've drafted for, but you know, I kind of wanted to go wide receiver, you know, or quarterback one, the highest available wide receiver that I was able to take, which was Neighbors, and then the highest available running back with Allen right here. I know that there may have been another player or two I could have taken in this situation, but in my opinion, Allen is maybe the overall RB1 in the NFL draft. Just looking at his body type and the way he plays. To me, he's Derrick Henry 2.0. So if somebody went back to the year Derrick Henry was drafted and said, "Hey, you're able to take him 1.9," you'd be like, "Okay."
And then SC at 110, you took Troy Franklin. He's getting a lot of draft steam lately. What was your thought process on that?
Well, I mean, based on where y'all were on the board, I felt he was the most valuable. Back when we were doing this draft, I was looking at mocks, and they did have him and Shedeur both going in the first. But a lot of mocks, and I agree with them, was he's going top 20 potentially, and then Shedeur is going, the 20 to 30 between that range. So it was just based on the value of what I thought the mocks were saying and what it could be potential for Troy Franklin. I think he is a first round capital draftable wide receiver in the NFL. So based on that, his talent is going to shine, and I think he's someone that could step on the field day one. All the other quarterbacks, with it being a super flex, at this point, I felt were not going to get that start right away. They were going to have to earn it. Whereas Franklin, I think they're drafting him early because they see the potential of him being a top wide receiver in the NFL, and I just thought he was the best value at this time.
And then we did this mock, I want to say middle of October. So at the time, at 111, Shedeur Sanders, Justin, you took him. At the time, it was waving where he might go, he might stay. Now that he's staying for the next year, is he your QB1 for the 25 class?
He is. And he's the reason I went here at 111, because I thought, hey, if I'm picking at the end of a first round, I probably got a pretty solid team. I want a guy that has a chance to be the 1-1, 1-2 next year. So when Franklin went the pick in front of me to SC, I was like, I'm going potential. I'm going the guy I think has highest upside. And that to me was Sanders. I just think I think they're going to figure it out in Colorado. I think they're going to improve that offensive line. They've already got some portal guys. It was 1 year there. I think the talent is there. I know everybody got on them because they just did not end the season the way they started. But I thought they really improved. If you looked at that team from the year before at Colorado, I mean, that place was a dumpster fire. I mean, that was probably the worst team in college football, at least at the G5 level. I mean, they were bad. They were really bad. So I really like him. I think they can put some more people around him. Me and SC been on the hype train since last summer. I'm staying with it. I still think he has the talent. I think he has the ability. I think he's got the smarts, and I think he's just going to get better And I want to, if I got a chance to get a guy late first round that might be 1-1 next year, that's what I'm doing.
And then at 112 to round out the first round, I took Xavier Worthy. I feel that he is the best field stretching receiver in the draft class. That's what he's going to hang his hat on. And I just think he brought value at the 112. Let's go on to the second round here. I will go over it briefly here. At 201 was Tez Walker. 202 was Trey Benson. 203, Roma Dunze. 204, Travion Henderson, followed by JT Sanders, Rocket Sanders. This was done in October at the time, you know. At 207, Michael Penix. 208, Jonathan Brooks. 209, Devin Neal. 210 is Quinn Ewers. 211, A.D. Mitchell. 212, Carson Beck. I'll start with you, Tommy. What was your favorite, or just in general, the second round? What was your favorite player chosen here?
Well, all three of my picks turned out to be nothing here because they're all three coming back, it looks like. So if you look at this board right here, the best pick in this round was probably Rome Odunze at 2-3, or Michael Penix at 2-7. Landing spot really, draft capital landing spot kind of matters whenever we're talking about Michael Penix. Does he get taken in the first round of the NFL draft? Does he get taken into a situation where he has to sit for a year and wait behind somebody? We don't really know yet. But just looking at the overall board right here, I think Roma Dunze is probably the best pick of this round.
With Roma Dunze and Michael Penix, both were chosen by SC. So SC, when you went going into this second round here, we're just thinking of best available player. What were you thinking with those two picks?
Odunze, I think that was the best pick at that time. I would have probably with Trey Benson had he been there, but I think Roma Odunze has potential shots to be in the first round. And this was even when we were doing it back in October, where I think he had that capital if he's a first round pick. So having him at 203, I think is a huge steal for you because you're getting a guy that's going to have value there over a running back and another wide receiver that may have to be fighting for that. So I think that was a great pick all around. I will say my favorite pick here, though, is probably going to be yours with Devin Neal. I think that's a running back, especially with all the guys going into that or coming back, that Devin Neal is going to be someone that's going to be on some radars and potentially a day two pick. And I mean, I said it over and over. He was my sleeper of the class. And now that he's getting that capital, I think everyone needs to watch him because he could be one of the top running backs of this class.
Justin, what was your favorite pick in the second round?
I'll start off just by my pick, Trey Benson. I like Benson because I feel like he has all the tools that NFL teams want for a running back now. He can catch the ball. He's got soft hands. He's got very good skill level as far as body type. He doesn't get knocked off his route a lot of times. He can take shots and still absorb them and stay on his feet. He didn't have overwhelming numbers at Florida State. They used a lot of guys. They got some other guys in there, but Benson, all year I watched him, and I know he didn't get a ton of touches at Florida State, but all year I watched him. Every time I saw him, I'm like, this guy is going to be a good NFL running back. He just, to me, he's up at the top. I know a lot of guys like Braylon Allen. I like Braylon Allen depending on where he lands, but Benson could end up being number one for me. Outside of that, I actually really like the Devin Neal pick, and I really like the Mitchell pick. Mitchell is moving up my board. The more I watch him and see him, the more I like him. And I think Devin Neal, to me, is a lot like Trey Benson. I feel like those guys are super similar type of players. So the more I watch Devin Neal, the more I like him because I think he reminds me a little bit of Trey Benson, and I like Benson a ton.
Devin Neal is my RB1 of the draft class. I know that's against the consensus. I know the consensus would probably have Braylon Allen at 1, but I think Devin Neal brings that skill set that you absolutely love in a running back at the next level. The third round here, we have Jalen McMillan at 301. 302 is Bo Nix, followed by Xavier Legette. Jaden Daniels, Malachi Corley, Brian Thomas Jr., Blake Corum at 307, Roman Wilson, Audric Estime, Jacob Cowing, Jalen Polk, and Ben Urasek. One takeaway is you should be accumulating multiple third round picks here in your dynasty leagues. But Tommy, what was your favorite pick of this third round?
Well, I'm going to stay away from the obvious one, which Jaden Daniels looks like the steal of this draft. But my favorite player in this round is Brian Thomas Jr. I think he has everything you want in an NFL wide receiver. He's great at catching contested balls. He can stretch the field. He can catch the short to intermediate balls. Him and Malik Neighbors made Jaden Daniels look great. Everybody knows how we feel, how we feel about Jaden Daniels. I personally think he's a poor man's Lamar Jackson. Definitely not nearly as good as Lamar is. Now he has a special season. I will give him that. But I think Brian Thomas Jr. He has first round talent. He won't be drafted there, but he has first round talent.
SC, what was your favorite pick in this third round?
Man, I'm actually gonna say Blake Corum, the pick right after Brian Thomas. Blake Corum's one of those running backs that's growing on me, and I think if he goes to the right spot, I mean, just like he did at Michigan, he's gonna be someone that they can feed him just to get those touchdowns. And for a running back like him, he's someone that can possibly get 12 to 15 touchdowns within a season just because of his versatility, what he can do all around the field. I think will be great, and I have seen tons of mocks with him going to somewhere like the Chargers. Eckler's on that down towards trend of just that aging running back. Corum could be an excellent fit there. And if he goes somewhere like that and he's there at 307, I think that's a huge steal because I think at that point, if he's drafted there, he's someone that should be an early second round pick, possibly.
And Justin, what was your favorite pick?
The reason I took Corum there at 3.7, I love the value. I'm probably not going to be taking him early in a lot of drafts, but man, I'm going to keep my eye out for him when he falls. Because again, he's moving up for me. I like him. I just think if he ends up on a good offense and they're not like a bad offense where they're expecting him to carry the ball a ton, I think he could be really good. I love the Brian Thomas pick at 3.6. I thought was great. I was actually between him and Xavier Legette when I took Legette at 3.3. That was kind of my toss-up. I was like, am I going to go Legette, Brian Thomas? I love both those guys. Man, I feel like Legette is a guy that is just starting to put it all together. You turned me on to him, Andy. I started watching him. I picked him up in all my leagues. He just feels like a guy that is ready to really end up being one of those guys that we end up looking back and going, man, he was a way better pro than he was a college player because he just feels like he's just starting to get it. And he's got all the athletic ability. I just think he's one of those guys could end up blowing his college tape out of the water when he gets to the NFL. And I think he could do really, really well at the combine. To me, 3.3, I love it here. I don't know if you're going to get him that late once the actual draft comes around. I feel like teams are going to be on him, but I love the Legette. I love Brian Thomas here in the third. I want a lot of third round picks this year. I just feel like there's a ton of guys I want to take dart throws at.
Yeah, my favorite, I got to stay on brand, Xavier Legette. I think he is going to be an absolute monster at the next level. I've talked endlessly about him. I've written a profile on him. I've outlined all the reasons why he struggled the first few years. I think he is going to be a monster at the next level. Let's go to the final and fourth round here. At 401, it was Torrey Horton, 402, Jaheim Bell, followed by Johnny Wilson, Dylan Gabriel, Ladd McConkey, Rasheen Ali, Will Shipley, I don't know why he was picked, Luke Lachey, Dallin Holker, Trey Harris, Bucky Irving at 411, and then Blake Watson at 412. Tommy, what was your favorite pick here in the last round?
Just looking at it right here, you got. I mean, I'd have to say Bucky Irving. I think he's probably a late day 2, early day 3 pick. I also like Blake Watson a lot, but I'd been hyping him up all season. But for a guy that I haven't been was Bucky Irving. I was not overly high on him coming into the season, but as the season went on, I saw his vision, I saw his burst. He's a little slight of frame for me, but in today's NFL, that doesn't necessarily matter. I think Bucky Irving could be a really good pro. Obviously, as we go through this list, Torrey Horton's coming back, Dylan Gabriel's coming back, Trey Harris is coming back. We haven't heard anything on Shipley yet. So my favorite pick of this round was probably Irving.
Yeah, I think that would be the consensus here. SC at 411 was great value.
Mhm.
If he were, let's say he goes early day 3, is he someone that you're going to look at in the third round when you're doing your real rookie drafts?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and landing spot may have him be a late second. I mean, you talked about many times how that round when you do your draft stock, for the running backs, you kind of give them a round ahead, a round and a half, I think is what you do.
Yeah.
But I think that's fair value because the way the running back market is in the NFL now, a fourth round running back is actually pretty good because there's still opportunity there. We saw it with like the Damian Pierce, right? When he got drafted in that fourth round, just got that work. So I feel at that point it's an expendable opportunity. So if he goes in there, they're going to give him the opportunity. And if he runs away with it, it's his to take. So, I mean, I think having him in the third, if he goes early day 3 in the fourth round, good pickup. But if you're able to get him potentially early third too, I'm not mad at that late second just because I think there's value there. Landing spot will do. I don't want him necessarily in a crowded room, but at the same time, he's been in a crowded room majority of his career. He still had found some success, so that actually may benefit him here. I actually do like Dallin Hooker here, how you took at 409. I think that's a tight end to watch that can be a sleeper tight end for you. We saw what they did with Trey McBride out at Colorado State. Dallin Hooker's not the exact as Trey McBride. Trey McBride's a better tight end, but he is a complete tight end. He can block, he can run, he can catch, he's physical. Everything you want in a tight end at that next level, I think, is someone like Dallin Hooker. So in the fourth round, I think that's where you'll still get him come draft time, but I think that's a steal at that time.
Justin, what was your favorite pick in this fourth round?
Yeah, I'm going to jump with first Bucky Irvin. Love that pick there. Agree with everybody there. But Dallin Hooker, again, just what SC said. I love if I'm in a high tight end premium or a start 2 tight end or like a really deep league where it's hard to like load up on tight ends. Man, this fourth round is when I love taking a shot at some of these younger tight ends. I just think that's a great spot for him. Jaheim Bell, I took him a little earlier. He's a guy he's going to need to be in the right system. But, man, if he kind of play like a slot, big slot, and they count him as a tight end, he just has that ability that he could actually be pretty good in the pros. So that's where I'm looking at these guys. I'd love trying to get a steal here with either guys that went in like the 4th or 5th round as far as running backs are concerned. Like a guy that went in the 5th, I love to try to get him in the 4th in my rookie draft. And same thing with tight ends. I swear, you can get maybe some of those guys that went like late 2nd, early 3rd in the real NFL draft that maybe they drop just a hair in your rookie draft. This is where I like to get those guys.
I think a good way to attack this year's drafts when they actually do take place is the first round. Depending on where you pick, if you pick the top 3, top 4, yeah, you want to get a quarterback. But I think early on getting receiver in the first, possibly receiver in the second as well, and then possibly getting one of those tight ends in the 3rd and the 4th, because Brock Bowers is obviously the top tight end here, but this is a pretty good deep tight end group that isn't getting talked about right now. You can pick up a good guy to get for a tight end premium league. And so I think this draft, I think when it's all said and done, we'll see more tight ends get probably bumped up to the 3rd round. But go ahead.
I argue this tight end group might be better than last year's tight end group too.
Yeah, it's a really good.
Yeah,
it's a really good
I love
class.
last year's group, and I think this group maybe doesn't quite have the buzz yet, but I think when you actually see the combine and you see where these guys get drafted, I think we'll change our mind because there was a lot of guys that went 2nd, third round in the NFL draft last year that I don't think people were like super ready for them to go second and third round. Because they just didn't have huge college seasons productions wise, but you saw the talent. And then you saw we had some nice tight end performances this year. And so I'm loving this wide receiver group. I'm loving this tight end group. Like I said, there's a lot of people who think third and fourth round picks are throwaways. Man, I love those. I love to take shots on some guys there for a decent, not a whole lot of draft capital. So I'm excited to see who kind of gets into those rounds. And these running backs, again, people are down on this running back group, but I think there's guys out there, depending on where they land and where they get taken, you could definitely get some fourth, fifth round guys that are gonna see the field. So that's where I'm interested to see who kind of makes it into that fourth, fifth round mix, because it wasn't the same as what we had last year. Running backs, there was a big move in the running back landscape last year. If you went from just after the bowl games and then after the draft combine, I think it changed a lot. So I'm interested to see what happens with this running back group and who officially comes out.
Yeah, that's the big thing is who declares, who decides to stay. Just going through this draft right here that we did, we had 8 to 10 guys that are coming back, almost a full round basically. So then you're looking at at guys on the outside of those 4 rounds, like, okay, who's going to slide in now?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Justin, where can we find you on X, and what are you currently working on?
Yep, hit me up on X at JT Orange. You can also check out my show, The Stew with JT Brew, on DynastyProsFootball.com. You can look up all my old shows on there. I do stuff. I do a hockey show. If you're into hockey, do those on Wednesday nights, The Stew with JT Brew. And then if you're into IDP, you can find my ranks on DLF. And then I write a waiver wire IDP article for Fantrax every Wednesday.
SC?
Find me on X at the PPR show. Got some big things coming into 2024 as we get closer to that new year. Got some IDP start sit in the final 2 weeks on RPO football. My IDDP articles have been missing, but we're about to get flooded with those as well on Dynasty Pros. And then I started writing some wrestling content on Total Apex Sports. Just did a Bray Wyatt tribute, RIP Bray Wyatt, just a legendary wrestler. But find some of that if you're into WWE, AEW, all types of wrestling.
Tommy?
Yeah, you can find me on X at Dynasty Pros Tom. I do a lot of the back end stuff for Dynasty Pros, as far as editing, getting articles published, getting them up. Obviously, we do the Devy show every week. Also, towards the beginning of the year, me and SC are going to start doing a wrestling show on Total Apex Sports. We also have been doing a bunch of different breaking news articles and wrestling stuff, and just a bunch of different sports stuff in general, outside of the fantasy football space. But as always, go subscribe to the YouTube channel here. Go subscribe to the Total Apex Sports YouTube channel. Check out what we got going over there also. But again, I do a lot of the back end stuff as far as getting things published and edited and all that stuff for Dynasty Bros.
And you can find me at Andy_Fam1. Beginning for 2024, going to be dropping 2024 NFL draft eligible players. Get you ready for your rookie drafts. And then every Friday, we'll be doing a future Freshman Friday, getting you ready for your sub drafts for your C2C leagues. And then we're in full off season mode. So I'll be hosting every Tuesday and Thursday, rain or shine. This Thursday, I'll be doing I'm drawing a blank here. The high school signing day, where they end up, Dylan Raiola flipping all the guys that are signing. Give a recap on all of that. But for everyone watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe. If you listen on Spotify or on Apple, go ahead and give us a rate and review. Until next time, have a good one.